Hello, history fans. Welcome back to 5-Point Historian. Today we have the internet, satellites, and GPS to show us every corner of the world. But 800 years ago, the world was a giant mystery. Beyond the local forest or the blue ocean, people believed the world was filled with strange and terrifying creatures. These weren't just stories for children. Kings, explorers, and priests believed these monsters were 100% real. Today we are exploring 5 terrifying monsters medieval people actually believed in. Get ready to see the world through the eyes of a medieval traveler. Before we meet these strange creatures, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us explore the mysteries of history every single week. Now let's travel to the edge of the world to find the headless men. 1. The Blemmyes, the headless hunters. Imagine you are traveling through the hot deserts of Africa or the deep forests of India in the year 1200. You look ahead and see a tall, strong man, but as he gets closer, you scream in terror. He has no neck, he has no head. Instead, his eyes and his mouth are located right in the middle of his chest. This is the Blemmyes. The belief: medieval Europeans were fascinated by the Blemmyes. They believed these headless humans were a wild race that lived in the undiscovered parts of the world. Because they had no heads, people thought they were incredibly strong and fast. They were often described as fierce warriors who ate raw meat and spoke in a language that sounded like hissing snakes. The real story, the evidence, from famous explorers. You might think this sounds like a fairy tale, but famous people claimed they were real. Even the great explorer Sir Walter Raleigh wrote in his books in the 1500s that he believed these headless men lived in South America. He said he had spoken to people who had seen them with their own eyes. Why did they believe this? Some historians think that medieval travelers saw local warriors who wore large, tall shields or traditional costumes that covered their heads. From a distance in the heat of the desert, it might look like their faces were on their chests. But for a medieval person, the Blemmyes were a terrifying reality that waited for anyone who traveled too far from home. 2. The Basilisk, the king of serpents. Our second monster is perhaps the most dangerous creature in all of medieval mythology, the Basilisk. Today we know the Basilisk from movies like Harry Potter, but in the Middle Ages, people were genuinely afraid that one of these could be living in their basement or a local cave. The birth of a monster. According to medieval science books called bestiaries, a basilisk was born from a very strange event. It happened when a 7-year-old rooster laid a small leathery egg. This egg then had to be sat upon by a toad or a snake until it hatched. The result was a creature with the head of a bird and the body of a serpent. The real terror: death by looking. The basilisk was called the king of serpents because it could kill you in 3 ways. Its bite was poisonous, its breath could dry up entire forests, and most terrifyingly, its look could turn you to stone or kill you instantly. The real story: the Basilisk of Warsaw, 1570. In the year 1570, in the city of Warsaw, Poland, a strange story was recorded. 2 young girls went into a dark cellar to play and never came back. When their mother went to find them, she also died. The townspeople were terrified. They believed a basilisk was living in the cellar. They found a man who was sentenced to death and told him, "If you go into the cellar and kill the monster, we will set you free." The man covered his body with mirrors and walked into the darkness. A few minutes later, he came out with a dead, strange-looking creature. Modern scientists think it was probably just a very large snake or a buildup of poisonous gas in the cellar. But to the people of Warsaw, it was a victory against a legendary monster. 3. The Skyapod, the umbrella. People. Not all medieval monsters were scary hunters. Some were just very, very strange. Meet the Skyapod. The name literally means shadowfoot. The belief: the Skyapod was a human-like creature with only 1 leg. But this wasn't a normal leg, it ended in a giant, massive foot. These creatures lived in hot tropical lands like Ethiopia or India. Medieval maps often show them sitting on the ground with their single foot raised high in the air. The tactic, the living umbrella. Why did they do this? The Middle Ages were before the invention of modern sunscreen. People believed that when the sun became too hot, the cyapod would lie down on its back and use its giant foot as a natural umbrella to create shade. The real story: St. Augustine and the soul. Question: the cyapod was so well known that even famous religious leaders like St. Augustine wrote about them. In his book, The City of God, he asked a serious question. If cyapods are real, do they have human souls? Can they be saved by God? He decided that if they were children of Adam and Eve, they were human, no matter how many legs they had. This shows that medieval people weren't just telling scary stories. They were trying to understand how these strange creatures fit into their religion and their world. Today, historians believe travelers might have seen people sitting in strange positions, or perhaps saw a person with a medical condition like elephantiasis, which makes limbs swell to a giant size. 4. The cynocephaly, the dog-headed giants. Our fourth monster is the cynocephaly, a race of people with the bodies of men, but the heads of dogs. They were said to be tall, hairy, and very violent. The belief: people believed these dog-headed men lived on islands in the Indian Ocean. They didn't speak a human language. Instead, they communicated by barking and growling. They were expert hunters who wore animal skins and used spears to catch their food. It is amazing to think that people like Marco Polo actually wrote about these creatures. If you find these strange history points interesting, please like this video and subscribe to 5 Point Historian. We have one final sea monster to look at. The real story: St. Christopher the Doghead. The belief in cynocephaly was so strong that it entered the church. There is an ancient tradition in the Eastern Orthodox Church that St. Christopher, one of the most famous saints, was actually a cynocephalus. Old paintings from the Middle Ages show St. Christopher with a dog's head. The story says that he was a fierce, dog-headed giant who was captured in battle. After he learned about Christianity, he miraculously changed and gained a human face, or simply gained a human soul. When explorers like Marco Polo traveled to Asia, they looked for these people everywhere. Marco Polo even wrote in his journals that he heard about an island called Angamanayan, where all the men had heads like mastiff dogs. He was probably looking at a different species of monkey or baboon, but he was convinced he had found the legendary dog men. 5. The sea bishop, the monster of the deep. In the Middle Ages, people had a very specific rule about nature. As it is on land, so it is in the sea. This meant they believed that for every animal on land, there was a version of it in the ocean. There were sea horses, sea cows, and even sea bishops. The belief: the sea bishop was a fish that looked exactly like a Catholic bishop. It had a tall, pointed head, like a bishop's hat called a mitre, fins that looked like a long cloak, and a face that looked human. It was believed to be a holy messenger of the ocean. The real story: the King's Gift, 1531. There is a very famous record from the year 1531 in Poland. Fishermen caught a strange creature and brought it to the King of Poland. The creature looked like a bishop. It did not speak, but it used its fins to make signs to the king, begging to go back into the water. The king was a kind man and allowed the fishermen to release it. The sea bishop allegedly made the sign of the cross and disappeared into the waves. Later, in 1554, another sea monk was caught in Denmark. What was it really? Modern marine biologists have a theory. They think these sea bishops were actually angel sharks or giant skates. When you look at these fish from the bottom, their bodies have a shape that looks like a person in a long robe, and their gills look like eyes and a mouth. To a medieval fisherman who was very religious, it was much easier to believe they had found a holy fish than a new species of shark. The medieval world was a place where the line between reality and imagination was very thin. To a person living in 1200, the Blemmyes and the Basilisk were just as real as the cow in their field. These monsters represented the great unknown. They were a way for people to explain the strange things they saw in a world before science books and cameras. Looking back, we can see that many of these monsters were just misunderstood animals or optical illusions. But even today, we still love stories of creatures like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. Perhaps we haven't changed that much after all. Thank you for joining me on this tour of the medieval zoo. Which of these 5 monsters do you find the most interesting? Would you rather meet a cyapod or a sea bishop? Let me know in the comments. I love reading your ideas. If you enjoyed this trip back in time, please like and subscribe to 5 Point Historian. We bring you 5 fascinating points from history every single week. Stay curious, and I will see you in the next video.